we're dealing with a lot of different things at the same time. We're dealing with technology transformation, we're dealing with curriculum changes, we're dealing with a lot of different cognitive skills and mastery levels that we need to achieve to be ready for the workspace. Right, and the VP of Microsoft, Mr. Anthony Saucier, in his keynote today, is saying that the skills of today are the jobs of tomorrow, and it's human-centric, and it's not about passing and failing anymore. And there are many stakeholders involved in the process of assessment that need to be oriented and full aware of what's happening. If we're looking at STEM stream as a framework of delivering education, how are we evaluating that on a day-to-day basis? What kind of constraints do we have to be able to equip ourselves? And in the 21st century scheme of things, we're not evaluating things on the basis of passes and failing. We're actually evaluating the cognitive development and progress of students in different areas. We're talking about Bloom taxonomies. We're talking about the learning outcomes. We're talking about those parts of our day-to-day teachings and lesson plans that are not addressed efficiently. And the process of also involving the right stakeholders in the process. If we're talking about a school or a group of schools, country level, we're talking about parents, teachers, students. We're talking about universities, we're talking about accreditation. And so there are many aspects to deal with that. One of the very first pain points we should consider is the immediate challenge that we have that's tedious and takes a lot of time and effort to perform a simple task. Now, in the sector of assessment, we're dealing with some of these continuous processes like writing questions. Writing questions and item development is a very crucial and critical phase because if we're not asking the right questions, if we're not emphasizing all the levels of Bloom taxonomy, we're not exercising all the learning outcomes that are supposed to be leading the next benchmarking of our work. Now, when we're writing those items, we're delivering them. Teachers spend a considerable amount of time, educators in general, writing items, putting them together in tests, verifying them manually, then delivering those tests. How do they deliver them? Are they paper-based? How about we have devices? Are we equipped to deliver assessments securely on those devices? Is it efficient? What about networks and infrastructure? Those are different areas that when we're crossing this bridge together, we need to make sure that we are addressing and putting in scope. And last but not least is when I do deliver an assessment, is it mapped to the right set of outcomes? If I'm not delivering an outcome-based assessment based on those skills that I'm supposed to evaluate, then I'm just creating another pop quiz that is not no more than actually just a pass and fail test. Now, grading and creating reports. Grading as well is another area where we have a tremendous amount of innovative technology that takes over that process and removes it completely from the teacher by automating grading for almost all types of question types. And for the most part, the reports that are generated on term-to-term basis, on week-to-week basis, can be done automatically by systems that could just save time for educators to focus on making better lesson plans and better enhancement in the way they teach. Now, if we take a step back from the challenges and see, okay, now if we're talking about assessment, what kind of assessment schemes are we actually planning? We're going to be stuck in the first box, which is the formal or the formative and summative assessment. But that only engages our development in only one area. We have so many different forms of assessment that we can conduct and work together to actually achieve this excellence. We can have self-based assessments. We can have observational assessments for practical and vocational education. Students are no longer just answering the quiz and test. They're engaged in activities. Theme-based learning, where they go and research and come back with results. All of that is observed and automatically paired to the same skills and learning outcomes. Psychometric, admission testing, even national and international assessments, which are now part of every standardized rollout of assessment countrywide. So to encapsulate all those point of views and perspectives under one hub, one should be able to actually pinpoint what is the area of importance and relevance to the area of assessment. If we're done with writing the set of items that are properly mapped to the skills and outcomes and skill sets and what we're expecting, and then we're actually able to distinguish the kind of assessments that we set out to do, now how are we delivering those assessments? And when we're talking to different institutions nowadays, you have different policies when it comes to digital learning. We're talking about devices one-to-one. We're talking about bring your own device. We're talking about paper-based exams. But when we go to paper-based exams, Are we able to actually deliver them efficiently? Are we going back to this just normal traditional paper form, or is there a smarter way of doing paper-based? And nowadays, there's a considerable amount of work done in the digital transformation of content. How many of you are dealing with digital content in their institutions? Great. Okay, great. So we're talking about EPUBs, iBooks, we're talking about enhanced PowerPoints, and even OneNote. And those areas should also be covered by assessment, because we consider that the stream, the continuous assessment point of view, which also maps back to enhancing our lesson plans. How are we engaging the students inside and outside of the classroom? And so these are all the different wide ranges of delivery options we need to consider when we're setting out to deliver and kind of challenges with it. And the last point for the analytics part. So we talked about the authoring part and the challenges related, the delivery part, and what we have to consider, and the analytics. If I asked you right now, do we have a proper breakdown of analysis of our learning outcomes in each institution? The answer would be far away from yes, or it's partially done. Because, well, the reality is it takes a lot of time. There's a lot of students, and a lot of activities, and a lot of outcomes. And if we have the pairing, then we don't have the monitoring. We need to be able to at least address these set of main analytics that gives us the understanding of how to move next. Curriculum changes on countrysides and school levels, and we don't know how to move from one curriculum change to another without understanding the gap. How do we actually satisfy the requirements of that curriculum? And so we're talking about student performance, term basis or year basis, outcome-based analysis on each and every item, even our items. Item analysis, in its essence, is very important because when we write an item, this item lives through so many administrations, and that's what makes it a good one to be enforced, like the GRE or IELTS or other set of exams that are standardized. Or just another question that I'm going to use only once and discard it. What makes a good item from a bad item? Analysis of that kind of assessment. And so, these different spectrums, when we talk about them under one hub, we need to be able to find a way to consolidate all these practices under one roof, which helps us to achieve that. And that is the core of today's topic, which is SwiftAssess. GamaLearn, my company, we set out to enhance and solve that continuous problem in all of its phases under one roof. Today, when we talk to institutions about how do you perform assessment, they say, well, we can either do it on paper or we do it on a quiz level if we have an LMS. But then I ask them all these questions about the challenges, and the answer is we don't know how to overcome those. Assessment in SwiftAssess is a comprehensive and dedicated management of that process. It helps you go through the authoring of each and every phase, from item writing, curriculum mapping, assessment authoring, and then delivering them through all those different phases, whether you're doing digital devices, are we doing secure testing, are we doing mobile testing, or even paper-based. And SwiftAssess is set out to satisfy assessment in those contexts. So we are working with P-12. We're working with higher education to achieve accreditation both locally and internationally. So all of those reports that internal and external auditors require on evidence basis, we're providing automatically from the system. Engineering-based degrees that need specific templates like ABET accreditation, that's automatically configurable and customizable in SwiftAssess. So I'm taking so many bits and pieces that was performed by the faculty and the educators in separate systems, and I'm putting them under one roof that is consolidated and tracked throughout the entire lifetime. Even professional development for students, and teachers. Teachers are being transformed in the 21st century scheme of things. How to write items, how to write the right assessment that engages those levels of Bloom taxonomies. That's something that we also need a platform to perform. Otherwise, we're just leaving someone out of the equation, right? Some of the examples that we're actually working with in the region is, for example, the Ministry of Education in the United Arab Emirates, and we're performing assessment nationwide in terms of K-12 examinations, as well as national and international tests. Now, some of the challenges you'll find in any institution that is deploying assessment is that the variety of the devices or the infrastructure could differ. And SwiftAssess handles that gracefully by introducing ways to take assessments digitally, but offline and secure. And if you don't have devices and you're still aiming for paper, we have solutions for smart bubble sheets that doesn't require any printer, any scanner, or any paper. And after we're done with the session, I invite you to come by and have a hands-on demo. We're right in front of the session, right on the second side, in front of Microsoft. And we're having a full frontal exams of digital, paper-based, content-based, and iBooks and EPUBs, and showing you the experience hands-on for the teacher and the students, and even the faculty and the country level, if you would need to. The point of assessment in the 21st century is, if we're not gauging all the elements, mapping all the skills, properly aligning the Bloom taxonomy levels and the expected masteries, we're not doing any further than just a sample test of passing and failing. Everything is changing towards getting those skills of the workspace in the right spot. And that's what we're trying to do here under this institution. And as being with Microsoft partners also, we're doing a great deal of integration with institutions that are applying technology in a classroom. So if you today, for example, you're using Office 365, Office 365 enables you to do much more collaboration on a student-teacher level. And SwiftAssess integrates with a huge variety of systems that includes Moodle on the cloud, even the Desire to Learn, Blackboard, or even just Office 365, PowerPoint, Excel, and Word. That collaboration is what you need and you expect in a digital platform that scales to manage 24/7, anytime, anywhere. And the benefit of it is, it's just concerned with the process of mapping chronologically everything you've done from the point of entry of the system until you graduate. Transcripts, related outcomes and mastery across a certain time level, comparative analysis between a student and a group of students, and a specific demographic or a country level on a skill set. There is no single platform that takes care of those aspects under one group, and that's what we need to address in this platform. I encourage you to come by and sit by the GamaLearn stand and have a closer look at what we're talking about today. And if you have any inquiries and questions, please, we have 2 minutes to address that, and definitely more at the stage. But thank you very much for that.
Thank you.